Welcome everybody to Let's Dig the podcast. Today is a special day because we have our first guest. Our first guest, these guests that we have, they are special to us. You probably already saw it in the thumbnail, and everything that you saw in the thumbnail is not clickbait. We're going to talk about some real things today. And so today I want to introduce to you guys my family. This is my sister. And when I say sister, I'm not talking about like sister, like just black power type of sister. I knew he was going to sing it. This is my blood sister. This is my older sister. She's like my second mom. You guys know my mom passed several seasons ago, almost 2 years, going on 2 years. Yeah. And my sister's like my second mom to us, and growing up, she used to bathe me growing up, which is crazy. So she is here today with her and her husband. They are lead pastors in South Florida, Miami, North Miami, Florida. So everybody make some noise and welcome my sister. This is John and Rebecca Germain.
Yo, guys. What's up?
Hi. Guys, I straightened spirit fingers.
Yes.
When he was announcing you.
I should have. Hey, you know what? Hold up. Pause real quick. Okay,
Please clarify for the people.
I know some of you guys see the red cup, and some of y'all are judging. Matter of fact,
I'm judging. I judged.
Wait,
I'm getting memories.
First of all, let me say this because they don't know that you give me a hard time about my Coke Zero and my Celsius, and then you'd be like, "Shorty, please get a cup. It looks better for aesthetics." Blah blah blah. And then I have my cute cup with my glass straw, and you have the nerve to sit down with a solo cup today.
Okay, on my defense, I was born and raised in church, and so for the people that were in the world, I do not even know what this means to college students.
It's just party. It's just party cups. It's not like drinking cups.
Yeah. So I just thought about it. I'm like, people see this cup and think, "Oh my gosh, where's he drinking?" I'm drinking water.
Water.
Everybody's gonna relax.
Boring water.
I was born and raised in church. Yep. And so when I see this cup, I do not think anything.
I don't think it either.
It's just a cup.
Yeah. It's not equated.
But it's a great pop color, I would say. Huh? I love the way the red
contrast.
Yeah, it feels.
It actually goes with your hat.
Yeah. Speaking of outfits, so you guys can probably already see this fire shirt that I'm rocking.
It's so dope.
So my sis, this is her brand. This is her line. We're gonna drop the link in the description. Yeah. Matter of fact, John is rocking one right now.
Yes.
Got the baby blue.
Holy vibes only. He got the baby blue. You know, we're from Miami, so Miami likes colors, and I know in LA
that makes sense.
It's different. It's all just like the monochromatic colors. I'm here for it because black makes you look skinny.
That's true.
So it doesn't matter where I'm from. I will always be wearing black because it just cinches you.
In the heat of Miami, Florida.
Yep, that's right.
Rebecca Germain is still in black.
I like it. And you know what? I'm liking this Holy Vibes Only. We've actually been on a series right now in the podcast. You guys already know. We've been talking about cleaning up our relationships. We've been talking about walking with God. We've been talking about catching toxic relationships. We've been talking about things that we can do to save our marriages. Yeah. And so Holy Vibes is really cool because for us as believers and followers of Christ, this is the life that God has called us to live. So Becky, take a moment, kind of talk about what we're rocking right now today.
I love it. Thank you. That's a perfect segue. It is. So the line, this is a streetwear line that God gave to me in 2020 in a dream. So when I was younger, my brother can attest to this. I've always been into fashion. Yeah. But as I got older, you start to infiltrate different things and start to hear different voices. And the industry, especially in fashion or entertainment, they say if you don't do something by a certain age, then it can't be done. So I got into corporate and really just began to just buy into that narrative. So I never did anything in fashion, but anybody who knows me knows I will dress up anything and I'll find a way to make it eclectic and make it my own. So it was a vision that I left. I mean, really, when I was a kid, never cared about fashion industry. What does that have to do with me? So in 2020, actually, I just had a dream in the middle of having shingles.
Yep. Wow, COVID. Right.
Yep. So we're in the middle of COVID and I caught shingles.
I forgot you had shingles. I had shingles when I was 16.
Yeah.
And that's like extremely rare for us to get younger.
Correct. So shingles is not for young people.
It's not for the old people. And we had it young.
For young people. Okay.
That's crazy.
It is due to an immense amount of stress that your body endures and it will just induce that type of.
And it's mad painful.
It's just so painful. So here I am just in a hotel room for 3 days. We flew to Miami to go hang out with your family and do some renovation at your parents' house. And I'm sleeping and the Lord gives me this vision and I find myself just at a, almost like a museum that had a whole bunch of different textiles and fabrics. And as I'm walking around, I was having a conversation with someone and I'm like, man, I would love to have a fashion line and something that's for just people with sensitive skin and just the fabric has to matter. I didn't understand then why that was important until later down the line. Long story short, in talking to that person, they were just very discouraging because they're like, well, what are you going to call it? And if you're going to, go this direction, just a lot of obstacles and just very discouraging. Yeah. Anyhow, I said, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I just feel that this is what I'm supposed to do. And in the dream, the Lord said, remember that you're adorned by me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I woke up and I said, oh, that's the name of the brand.
That's amazing.
Adorned by Him.
I love it so much.
You guys are going to learn this about me real quick. I'm a scripture girl.
Let's go.
So the Lord told me to just go right into the scripture and he took me to Isaiah 61 verse 10.
Okay.
And it says, I delight greatly in the Lord. My soul rejoices in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation and arrayed me in a robe of his righteousness. As a bridegroom adorns his head like a priest, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, God, so what do I do with this next? And that's the thing. God will give you something in seed form and he just wants you to trust him. So anyways, long story short, 4 years later,
here we are.
I started with just one shirt and here we are. And it's all undergirded in scripture. This is, Isaiah 61 verse 10, holy vibes only. That is our 1P115. So in short, it's 1 Peter 1 verse 15. It tells us we also have our content collection. That's our PH 411, Philippians 4:11. When Paul says, I've learned to be content. I know what it's like to have a lot. I know what it is to have a little, but I can do all things through Christ who gives us strength.
Yeah, it's just
so
big, man.
Just out here walking in obedience.
Here we are. So we want to encourage you guys, support. But you know what? This is not really just about support. This is about getting in alignment with what God has for us. And so these shirts, this brand, this is stuff that has been anointed, has been prayed over. So I'm telling you.
How you know?
Because I already know. I already know.
How you
Look at you in my business.
I already know. I already know. It's been prayed over. So listen, y'all, whatever you're going through in your situations, I want to encourage you guys, partner up with brands like this, brands like that speak life into your situation. You might be in a dark situation right now, and you might be able to put on a shirt like this and to know, you know what, God has called me to live in high places.
That's right.
He's called me to be holy, right? And he loves me. I'm adorned by God.
Yeah.
So I love that. All right, so we're going to drop the link.
Thank you.
In the bio. We're going to drop it in the description right here. We'll put it somewhere so that you guys can get it. Come on, let's make this mug go out of stock.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to have some conversations. All
right, so we have a conversation.
I know you guys were talking earlier about some stuff we're going to talk about. I missed the whole thing.
Thank you, but you did a great job as our production crew. So thank you so much.
Let's go.
We appreciate your ministry.
Appreciate it.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about how we did the last week's episode about, unfortunately leaders falling in that. It's a real problem in the church right now. And so we were just chatting a little bit of what does that look like for us in ministry? All four of us are in ministry. We carry a lot of weight. And so what does that look like for us? And because that's what I said in the last episode too. I was like, I don't want to just point fingers to point fingers.
That's right.
I want to talk about what I see in the church as a whole, but then I want to reflect it on me and say, okay, so how do I keep myself from falling into that or looking like that? Or is that my heart posture? Yeah. What do I need to do to make sure that when I'm doing something for the Lord, it is not look at me, but it is look at him.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because this is such a different generation now. And just so you get to give you guys some content on the demographic, people that are listening, not everyone's that listen to the page is a believer, right? So when you say the Lord, when you say God, the church, right? There's some that understand what we're talking about and some that don't understand what we're talking about. And for those of you that aren't believers in Christ, we're gonna always make sure that you guys know we're gonna always point you to Jesus, right? Because he's the one who saves. But in the church world, we've seen there's been this facade, right? There's been this cover up. I believe that we are the religion. We are the faith that has the truth.
That's right.
But we tend to be the most fake.
Yeah.
We're the ones that lie about things.
Yeah.
We're the ones that cover it up until someone else uncovered it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And people are falling because they're watching people who are religious leaders like not live the life that Christ has called us to live.
That's right.
Like, you know what I mean? And like what has been, like in this whole season, tell us just your perspective and what you've been noticing, just especially in the shift in generations now. People, we want the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think about the Israelites and how there was 3 different generations. There was the generation that they knew God, they experienced God. And then there was another generation that heard about God. But then there's a generation that didn't know anything about God. And I believe there's just this gap, and we see that there's nothing new. There's nothing new. It's cyclical. We're seeing the same thing is happening. There's a generation. I'm like, okay, you know what? Back in the days, we knew fasting and prayer and those spiritual disciplines. That's what we lived by, because we were brought up by the people who knew God, they experienced God, and so we followed in that same vein. But unfortunately, I believe there was a gap. There was a lack from my generation to this next generation, where we missed the mark in transferring that knowledge and that experience. Instead, we wanted to be friends more than discipling. We wanted to be homies because we're over, all right, I'm about to get real. So we're wanting to overcompensate for the people that wasn't there for us, or the ones that made us feel some type of way. So then we go the extra mile to say, I'm never going to make you feel this way.
Bro, but it's the pendulum.
You can't swing.
Our generation is working so hard. And it's not just in this, but in so many aspects. In parenting.
The principle at large.
Bringing our kids to church, whether we force them, but we don't want to force them because we were forced and we hated it. So let's not force our kids to go to church. Let's just suggest. But the pendulum has swung way too far where we're too soft about it.
That's right.
And then we're not actually letting people know the experience of what the Lord, what Jesus has done for us.
That's right.
Because we soften it so much that we don't want to be hard like our parents. Like you're going to do this, you're going to do that.
And now I see why Gen Zers don't want to get married. So John, as a pastor, right, you have Gen Zers in your church.
Oh yeah.
You have different generations in your church. And what has been the pulse like when people's perception towards marriage?
Yeah, even down in Miami, there's such like a vast distance when it comes to like the perspective of marriage. The other day, I was having a conversation with a few guys, and there's some guys, they've been dating for like years. And they just really just holding back and saying, I don't know if I'm up for it. And I think really, like when I think about it, it's growing up, I didn't even have leaders that was close to me. So like this generation, like they're looking up to leaders who can really pour into them. And so because they don't see that role model, they don't see that role model that's saying, hey, they have a healthy marriage. And so this is something I want to emulate. So a lot of them, they're saying, hey, I haven't seen a healthy marriage at all. So I don't even know if I want to go in this direction. And so like guys are coming up to me and like, Pastor, I don't know if I can do this. I see your marriage. It looks healthy, but I don't see anybody else.
We're the anomaly. So there's a lot of times we're told that we're the anomaly. But then I counter that by saying God's standard for marriage is the norm. An unhealthy relationship is the anomaly. An unhealthy marriage, an unhealthy relationship is the anomaly. Because when he created it, he said it was good.
He never designed it to be
He said that it was good. It
right.
wasn't supposed to be. Not saying that you're not going to experience hardship because we're imperfect people, but God created a perfect design, a paradigm that when it's inhibited by two godly people, that we can submit to him and then submit to one another. So no, we're not lucky because we get it all the time. We're not the anomaly. It's God's standard. A healthy relationship is God's standard.
But I think this is why like it requires like in this season, like we really need leaders that are stepping in and pouring into this generation that are close. Are close. Because for me, just thinking about it, there was a lot of people I looked up to and I didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. And until I grew up, that's when I realized
that's crazy.
it wasn't as healthy as I thought it was.
Right.
Wow.
It wasn't as healthy as I thought it was. And so this is why, like, just seeing leaders like falling out of ministry and just hearing a lot of the issues is because of what happened at home.
Right.
So
because
true.
the marriages were not healthy.
Yeah.
And so this
true.
is why, like, close proximity in ministry is so important. It's so prevalent. Like, it needs to show up.
And honesty and like just being open and honest to people who are looking at you and saying like, yeah, we do fight.
Yeah.
Like we had a couple ask us a few months ago, do you guys ever fight? And
I'm like,
did you know that we almost filed for divorce? Like, of course we fight.
Yeah.
But also that was our unhealthy season. But knowing that, yes, we still fight even in a healthy place, but there's a healthy way to do it.
Because conflict is an opportunity for intimacy.
Yeah.
Wait, say that one, say
Yes.
it
Come
one more
again?
time.
Conflict is an opportunity for intimacy.
I'm going to steal that from now on.
Yes.
So, but,
Right.
but church people and leaders in our, like for who we grew up under, we didn't get to see that.
There you go.
Right.
They hid every
too far. I
single
love that notion.
part of it.
The gap
too
was
far.
too wide. We're too far.
There was no intimacy for us with leaders.
Correct.
So now I know, I can say this for all four of us sitting in this room, that it is part of our mission.
That's right.
To show that transparency
Close
and
that gap.
share that intimacy with those who are following us and saying, hey, this is what we go through, but this is how we deal with it.
Yeah.
This is how we take it to the Lord.
Yeah.
This is how I submit to my husband. This is how I serve my husband. And like all of those things that are missing right now.
I had a friend, I won't say his name, it's a guy. He was born a guy and he identifies as a guy. And he's a guy.
Aristotle. Oh my Lord.
Do you guys see what I did? What I had to deal with growing up? Here we go.
Okay, so he was going through a really tough situation in his marriage.
Yeah.
Like messed up on his wife, stepped out, drugs, alcohol, all this stuff.
Yeah.
He was at church, plugged into a church.
Yeah.
And when he got to the point where he's just like, man, I really need to figure this out.
Yeah.
He goes to his pastor and says, I need help. Says all the stuff that he's going through. His pastor says to him, he's like, man, I think you should get therapy.
Yeah.
So the pastor points him to someone else. The friend tells me this like a year later. I'm like, that's what he told you. That's crazy. I said, did you ever sit down with him and he give you any type of guidance and like share with you, enlighten you and share with you areas that him and his wife has dealt with?
I literally have chills because I know where you're going.
Because sometimes all it takes is this, is like, hey, here's what we've done.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing.
Right.
If someone decides to come to me, a lot of times they just, like you said, it's the proximity. They want to just get close enough to say, how are you guys making it through? Because I see you guys are good.
Right.
You guys look like you're doing good. So therapy is good. We've gone through therapy. It saved our marriage. So I'm not against it. I'm not saying don't do therapy. Right. But what I'm saying is our point of just like, we carry the truth.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't want to share the truth because of the embarrassment. Long story short, that pastor, that leader of that guy,
Father.
matter of fact, it came out in the news that he was stealing money, messing around with girls, just divorced his wife, left the church, and the church is now out on his own, left the wife behind, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with the church. Now we understand what's going on. And what I'm saying is we're living in a time right now where podcasters are coming out, where ministers who has fallen are now talking about, here's what happened, here's how I got restored. But what we should be doing is while we're in the middle of it,
that's right.
Just sharing. You don't have to share the details,
right?
But just letting people know, like, hey, we're going through some tough seasons through that we're working through.
Right.
You know, that's why I said it last week. Shout out to Tony Evans. Who didn't share what he was going through. And I appreciate that because sometimes like when he shared right away, it gives justification for people to say like, I'm gonna do the same thing because we know we're gonna get restored.
And there are people that don't have the spiritual maturation to be able to differentiate between certain things. It becomes a blanket statement and they don't know what to do with it.
They don't know what to do with it.
It's like giving them a loaded gun and you just give me permission because wait, look at this person and I'm good. This makes up for it. So yes, you need to have the spiritual acumen to understand what you share. You can still be authentic, but not everybody gets transparency.
That's right.
There's a difference because It's the relationship that warrants the level of transparency.
So
I will
true.
always keep it real with you. I will remain authentic.
Be real.
But if I don't believe you have the maturity and you have the experience,
There you go.
or even Paul tells us in Romans, to not be a stumbling block. If this is an area of struggle for you, my sharing that with you may not help you. I learned
May
this
not
from
help
you.
you.
Don't say everything
Right.
if it's not going to be. You have to be able to differentiate between what's helpful and hurtful. If I say this to you and it's going to be hurtful, how am I helping you?
So
Sometimes it's in the restraint. I will remain authentic.
Yep, always.
And I will have to gauge, and I will need to discern what I can and cannot share with you. So I'm not being dishonest and I'm not being disingenuous.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
I am also protecting you because you can't handle
You can't
this.
handle- you
but
can't
there's
handle-
still a level of communication going back to the 3 generations of Israelites where, okay, well, from the first generation, the ones that experienced God, how much did you talk to the next generation about what you experienced in God?
I really appreciate that. And just as you're speaking, like just thinking as a pastor, I think sometimes, like, this is why for me, I have to always go at the feet of the Lord and remind myself I'm human just as everybody else.
So good.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned Tony Evans, and that shocked me. That hit hard.
Oh yeah.
That hit hard because I remember I said, I'm good. You know, as long as Tony Evans ever goes down, I'm good.
Yeah.
And to hear,
we did. We did.
What?
but that's
true.
because I feel like we've elevated pastors at such a high position, and even like the reverence that is to be given to God, we've placed it on pastors.
That is very true.
You know, and so now like pastors have this high position and we revere them so much. And it's gotten to the point where because of the lack of humility, even us as pastors, we forget that we're human as well. We forget that we need to live a humble life as well. We forget that we need to live above reproach. And because of that, I feel like, you know, for many of us, like we feel like, hey, we're not going to go through certain things. We're not going to experience certain things. But I have to remind myself, like the same way God has called me, he can call someone else too.
That's
like we all have the same calling, which is to proclaim the gospel, you know? And I think as pastors, sometimes we forget that as our church begins to grow, as our popularity begins to grow,
influence,
you know, influence, all of that, as that continues to grow. And then that separates me from a relationship with Jesus. And now I feel I can lord myself over the people that God has called me to shepherd. And man, like, it's like for me, almost every day I gotta, you know, just praying like, Lord, keep me humble, keep me humble, keep me humble.
So good.
And because of that, that keeps me where I'm willing to be transparent. Willing to be transparent and just share.
That's crazy,
like,
man.
I'm human just as you. I'm human just as you. I can fall just like you are. But this is why I gotta stay close to the Lord.
Bro. And I like the verbiage of just like, you know, keeping that space of like, okay, I'm not going to tell you intimately what's happening personally in my marriage right now, currently, as I'm dealing with some stuff. But I'm here to tell you, like, we are all going through things. We all face tough shit. Like we all go.
Wait, did you say? At the same time, we both wait.
I caught myself. I was in the middle of saying
shift.
He said shift.
No.
Shift.
I was in the middle of saying toughness and hardship. And some of your eyes, wait, did he say ship or hardship or hard? We all go through some hard ship.
Because the way we both responded at each other, I'm like, wait, what?
Hardship.
First of all, I'm gonna need everybody to relax.
Listen, this is accountability at its
all right,
finest.
we digging
You
right
see
now.
how we all just looked at it like, and we're like, no,
what
we
he
get
just
it.
say? We're all digging right now. We're all digging. First of all, I don't have a cussing problem.
I was gonna say, I know you didn't say it.
So this, can we pause? And this is the epitome of when you live and walk in godliness and holiness. Even in seasons of hardship, even in seasons
you gotta say
where
it slowly,
you can get tripped up, I believe how you navigate through that is a byproduct of how you live daily.
Yes.
Right.
So if you don't have a sailor mouth, even in tripping over a word, there's certain things that's not going to come out of you because it's not in you.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
You see what I'm saying? It's not going to come out of you.
And y'all already know we talked about Dan and Lee.
I was gonna say, but what happens if it? It's okay, guys.
We still digging too.
This is Becky. This is the one that we said to each other.
Accountable.
Not girl. We gotta do better.
We gotta do better.
Up.
We gotta do better.
People are looking to you.
That's right.
We gotta fix our words.
Yep.
And
that's right. You mentioned her last week, actually.
Was it last week?
Or a week
ago? It was a different episode.
And even recently, the Lord just brought it back to my remembrance because, listen, we're all sinners.
We go through hard seasons and things come out.
We go through. Your girl,
seasons, man.
Your girl has a little bit of an anger issue. I got the Peter spirit, and if I'm not in consecration,
chop somebody's ear off.
I do because I get very passionate. All right, I'm Haitian. I'm from New York, and I'm just passionate. I'm passionate.
People used to say all the time, like, why is Pierre always yelling? I'm not yelling.
He's not yelling. He's just passionate. This is how he speaks. We speak with our hands, and we're passionate.
You guys already know. Like Pierre's always mad. No, I'm not mad.
But last episode, you started off so chill that I was like, did you talk loud enough? Like, is your microphone?
I was trying something new last week.
He was like really chill. Like, so this is
where
we're
red cup.
And then today he's like, so today we gonna be here. And I was like,
that's it.
I had the red cup. It's the red cup.
It's the red cup. You sure that's water?
It's the water of life.
Yes.
I don't know. Nobody checked.
Water.
Yeah, but even recently, he just reminded me of just being a representative. Of the kingdom.
Yeah.
And yes, we are human, and we are to continuously bring our shortcomings to him, because the Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of his glory. But I had to remember that, what's the driving force behind certain behaviors, certain things? What's behind it? Because what's in me is holiness.
Yeah.
Right.
What's in me is holiness, which is why when I do the things that I don't want to do, similar to Paul, that I feel that contriment and I feel that dissonance and I feel that brokenness. So when I curse and it slips up, I don't feel great.
No,
I feel broken because what's in me is the holiness. What's in me is righteousness. You see what I'm saying? But again, this is me to reiterate: what's in you is what you will produce.
Yeah, man.
Even with a struggle. Tying it back to the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
There it is.
So there you go. What's in me is the fruits of the Spirit. So self-control. Instead of giving into, somebody made me very upset. And no, I could say the F word, but I'm not going to say the F word.
Don't say it.
Because it doesn't glorify God. It's not a witness to Jesus. That's what it is, a witness.
I love, our pastor used to always say like that ignorant people cuss, but it actually takes much more control and much more wisdom and like brain power intellect to use other words. Correct. And I thought that's so true, because it is easy to drop an F-bomb. But so in that of what you were saying, I also love that as leaders, it's showing and modeling that, hey, I can struggle with this, but it's not like, well, that's who I am and that's where I'm going to be. It's literally showing and walking out in front of people. Hey, I struggle with a sailor mouth. Yeah. Therefore, watch me fix my words.
Yeah.
Because holiness is inside of me. Yeah. And I won't stay in a sailor mouth world. Yeah. I'm going to grow and the grace of God is going to help me do better.
That's right.
But showing people that and saying like, nah, I struggle with these words, man. They be coming out sometimes.
Let me take a moment to say, if you guys are enjoying these conversations, don't forget, hit that button like. Some of you guys don't want to commit. Yeah, I just found out today that a lot more people are following the page than I think. And I get it. Hitting subscribe is a big commitment.
But it doesn't cost nothing.
It don't cost
it's
nothing.
Free.
It don't cost nothing. And don't you want to hang out with people you want to become? Yeah. So I want to encourage you, like, if you're enjoying this YouTube video, hit that button like. If you feel like this conversation could bless somebody that's in your life, don't send it to them all passive aggressively. Share it with them. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, leave us a review. Tell us how you really feel. If it's a 1-star, that's fine. That's okay.
We'll take
I'm not going to judge you too hard, but we're going to know who you are. All right, hit that review, right? Yeah. But I want to encourage you, seriously, like, if you're really liking this, like, we say this all the time, our goal is not to go viral. Our goal is to give value. That's what we're trying to do here. And so we're not trying to create a bunch of clickbait. We're not trying to like trigger words like, oh, we're going to talk about sex today, guys. Yeah, we're probably going to talk about it because that's what we talk about it.
But it was a real conversation.
It might come up in this conversation, which we should probably talk about it.
Oh, you want to go? Okay.
Oh, but what I'm saying is...
My husband's already whispering like, oh, my favorite topic.
My favorite topic. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about it, but this is not right now for us to talk about sex for you to just feel all good and comfortable. Some of y'all might feel uncomfortable because I'm going to say it right now. Like, there's people that have been degrading what sex was created to be.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And it's happening in the church.
Oh, yes.
It's happening everywhere. Like the perception of sex, people think all types of things.
Sure.
And it's been polluted, man. It's been destroyed.
Yep.
Crazy, huh?
That is true. So, John.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about sex? What's on your heart?
Let's talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex.
Which it's one of my favorite topics because it is a gift from God.
Yes,
I'm going to say this right now. Don't hit unfollow. Don't hit unsubscribe.
Yep.
It's a gift from God that God created for a man and a woman that are married
husband and a wife
to have.
That's
And it's great.
Yep.
Praise the Lord.
And I just want to put this out there for anyone who feels like, well, I lived a life of promiscuity and I didn't save myself for marriage. God's grace can reach you where you are. It's never too late for you to practice celibacy. It's never too late for you to say, hey, God, I want to do it your way. Because that's what a godly marriage exudes. Is when you follow God's paradigm and you get to live under the blessings of God when you do it God's way. I say this, if you want it God's way, then do it God's way.
Right. That's good.
Right. So I just want to encourage someone, and it's not too late for you. Start right now. Start today. Whoever's in your DM, don't respond. Whatever phone number you need to delete or whoever you need to just no longer block. It's not too late. The enemy wants to deceive you and make you feel like, well, this can never happen for you. You can never be in a godly marriage or a godly relationship. And that is a lie from the pit of hell. Start today.
And hit us up and we'll hit us up.
Yeah, they'll guide you.
We'll walk with you.
Yeah.
Like we'll hold you accountable. Like confession is good for the soul, man. It's the first step for to be set free. So tell us about it. It's not to put you out. You can hit that send text message, right? I think there's a link for that. But we actually want to hear back from you guys. If there's anything in these categories that you guys feel like, man, as they're talking, like I'm feeling conviction, that's actually a good thing. That's actually a really good feeling. We want to walk you through that next step. But John, share with us, especially for you as a pastor, right? You lead all levels of people, all ages, large demographic, and everyone has come into your congregation with different perspective of sex. Some people think, we've heard some people, I'm going to drop one name right now. We've heard people, leaders like Jamal Bryant, say stuff like, we should switch up the gospel for people who's already had sex before, right? That's the thing. Oh yeah, we've heard those type of comments. There's people in the church that think, well, what happens if you've already used to getting some and you're not married anymore?
He was saying basically we can't expect people who've already been used to getting sex to live a life of celibacy. So we need to flip the gospel for them.
So as a pastor,
that's Galatians right there. Just a completely different gospel.
Straight up.
And for me, being married, sex is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It was ordained by God. It's what God has designed for a husband and a wife to just really connect emotionally, spiritually.
Thank you for saying that, because I feel like I'll let you speak, but when Christian couples say sex is a gift, I think people on the outside think we're just talking about the feeling of it.
Okay.
But it's actually a intimacy and a connection and bringing us together. It's way more than just the satisfaction of my flesh.
Correct.
It's not just my satisfaction of my flesh. It's actually the way that I feel so close to you and that we become one. So thank you for saying Genesis right there. It's more than that.
Becoming, just you said, becoming one.
Becoming one.
And it's really God ordained. And so with that being said, I think growing up, being in the Christian household, like we were told that, hey, don't like we didn't talk about sex.
Don't have sex
they didn't preach
marriage.
about sex. Don't have sex before marriage. Like all this stuff. And what's interesting, like you hear all of this stuff about not having sex, and then now you come into marriage. Oh, I'm supposed to have sex. Like, and this is why I think the church needs to talk about it more. We need to have more conversation, and even as leaders, like I talk about
statistics show that Christians are having the least married Christians are having the least amount of sex. But it was created
for us.
That's crazy.
For us, the least amount. And we have a higher divorce rate than the world. Make it make sense.
That's wild to me.
Make it make sense.
Man.
But even with like, growing up and being told like, we shouldn't have sex and all that. So I found myself, because I was told not to. So I went ahead.
The forbidden fruit.
Sure.
Try to figure it out because nobody was telling me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Here it is. Like I'm having all these feelings rise up on the inside of me.
It's natural.
It's natural.
Yep.
You wake up and what's that? You know, all these things are happening, but there's nobody I can talk to.
Yeah.
Nobody that I can have a conversation with. And so I found myself, just living this promiscuous lifestyle. And even just living in this lifestyle, even then, like the people that I was having sexual encounters with, like this was like people in the church, people outside the church.
Yeah.
And it was just tough to just navigate through. I thought that, hey, because I showed up at church on Sunday morning, I did the sound, hey, everything was fine. Yeah. Not realize that, hey, I wasn't even being discipled throughout the entire time. I was a leader. And that's the thing, like even in the church today, man, like many pastors, we know that there's people who's having sex and we still allow them to stay in leadership, even outside of marriage.
Yeah.
And this is where, even for me, like I'm reminded, Lord, that the Lord's going to ask me for an account.
Yes, he is.
As a leader.
Yes, he
that's
is.
good, man.
As a leader.
Yes, he is.
And so like we really as leaders, like really just need to come alongside individuals and share, hey, this is my story.
Yeah.
But even though this is my story, but look where God has brought me.
There you go.
Look how God has navigated through our lives.
Transferring the information.
Yeah.
Look how God has brought me through all of this. Just as you were saying, like it's never too late.
It's not too late.
It's never too late. But it requires us as leaders really taking hold of our responsibility, really taking hold of what God has called us to do, and to really just navigate life with people. As opposed to just relying on our Sunday morning experiences. Like it's more than Sunday. It's more than Sunday.
And it's crazy. It makes me think like if the conversation of sex was having more, or the conversation about sex was having more in houses, right? Like we were talking about it more. Like we have a 10-year-old son. And I told him last month that him and I are going to have a man-to-man conversation.
I told you, I'm like, it's coming. You got to talk to him.
He said, like, what's it going to be about, Dad? And because he calls me Dad now. Once he went into the double digits, he's like, I'm not calling you Daddy anymore.
We told him he had to be 10.
So for the whole first month, he'd call me Dad and I wouldn't respond.
Yeah.
I wouldn't respond. What?
We told him it was 10.
You're not talking to me.
But anyway, he said, what are we going to talk about? I said, we're going to talk about the S word. Do you know like what the S word is?
Yeah.
He thought I was talking about stupid.
Yeah.
No. Like, no, it's not stupid.
Our kids are so sheltered. They're so Christian. They're so safe.
Yeah.
Our kids are really safe.
Sin.
Sin. Salvation.
Shame.
Sabbath.
Yeah. Shame.
Sabbath.
Oh my God.
Sabbath. I said, we're going to talk about sex, son.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about our body parts, your body parts, mommy's body parts, that your sister. We're going to talk about all those things. And because I realized, man, just what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like we as the body of Christ, we actually follow the truth. We know the truth. We carry the truth and we keep the truth to ourselves.
Don't talk about it.
And we wait till someone falls, till they stumble, till they mess up and say, we're going to talk about the truth. We're going to finally talk about it. I'm like,
why didn't we talk about it before you fell?
And it's like what you said, it's the gap in all the generations.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pride. I love how you said earlier, bro, of every day you're praying, God, humble me.
Yeah.
Because when you humble yourself, you realize that's the posture of Christ. Because Christ said, hey, if you want to be the greatest, humble yourself. Serve
humble
him.
yourself. Yeah.
So you humble yourself, you make yourself available. You're like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this where I messed up. So to me, I'm like, I'm going to talk about this to my son because I'll be damned if the world or the school or TV or YouTube is the first one to teach my son about this.
Not in my house.
And that's what's happened to us.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
Crazy, huh?
That is so good. That is so good. As I think about, everyone has their own experience when it comes to being exposed to the topic of sex and your perception around it. And so something that we struggle with in the beginning of our marriage when we started having sex is I noticed that my husband had a higher libido. And we know that most times men tend to have a higher libido. Right. Yeah. So I just attributed it to, he's a guy.
Real quick, can you define that for the people that I know what it means?
Okay, you know what it is. So
but it's for the ones that don't know.
Someone's libido, that's your sex drive. So my husband has a higher sex drive than I do. And we find this to be typical with men in general. Yeah. But you take that combination and you mix it with being Caribbean and also growing up Pentecostal and charismatic. So you're fighting the demonization of sex, right? And the lack of that conversation. And then the whole like, okay, well, I couldn't have sex, now I'm allowed to, and I don't know what to do. So I experienced something that didn't have language for. So my low libido didn't correlate it to experiencing sexual molestation at a young age.
Right.
So what that did is it turned off something that God created to be normal outside of the scientific aspect of women. Listen, we think about everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right.
But I didn't correlate. So it wasn't until like when we would have sex, I want to put clothes on, or when my husband wants to touch me in a certain way, I would feel shame and guilt. And I'm like, man, I don't know why I'm feeling this, because if God created this thing to be good,
should be good.
Why is it that I don't want it? I don't desire it. And it wasn't until really just the Holy Spirit illuminating, but conversation that we've had, but also too, like getting into therapy, going to different counseling sessions and having the language, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was able to directly connect. I had been sexually molested at 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
But for me, back in my head, nothing to talk about growing up Haitian.
Sure.
We're
not
you
gonna
don't think
talk
about
about
it.
it.
Talk about it.
Who do you talk to about it? Right? So I was the person that saved myself. And I'm like, the person I marry is going to be the one that I give myself to. And here's the person that I marry, I'm giving myself to. And I'm like, why am I feeling all of these feelings that they're not good feelings?
That's crazy.
And now it places this divide between us. I remember like the first few years of marriage, it was a struggle in our marriage, because I'm like, bro, you want to have sex, but now I'm having flashbacks.
Jesus.
Certain smells and certain sounds, things that just remain undealt with. And what you don't heal, you pass down. So didn't have the language. So even as that relates to bringing it back full circle in sex, I had to now start working
healing through that.
Healing.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is why like sex is so much more than just physical.
Correct.
Yeah.
Y'all, I got a good husband.
Yeah. I'm gonna need him to talk into the mic though.
Yeah.
Like, we got this thing right here, bro.
I got a good husband.
So now the levels ain't gonna be consistent now.
So now you guys gonna hear me. But yeah, no, this is why sex is so much more than just physical.
Yeah.
You know? Because even though like I can have sex every day, 100 miles per hour.
And he's not kidding, like every day.
Right.
Vroom.
Honey.
Vroom.
Is this a PG? Like,
no,
okay, all right.
We do
for
everything.
mature audience,
only thing we don't do is cuss on this channel.
Okay, so it's MA. It's MA.
All right. But we can say sex. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Like it's just dawned on me. I know in our church we had like our couples group, and one of the books we were talking about is we had talking about sex.
Yeah.
Like it was so hard for the couples to say the word sex.
We had married adults.
Oh my God. So
like liar.
So you had to do an exercise.
So we did an exercise. We had them go outside and just shout, sex!
And we had a few that could not do it. They're just not comfortable. They're not comfortable. But we can go into that.
But yes, this is what I was saying. This is why like sex is so much more than just physical, because even though even though like I have a high libido, I had to step back and realize who I'm having sex with. Who am I?
You better.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Who like it's more than just a physical. And so like even for me, like we were having more conversations. And this is what you don't hear when it comes to sex. Like we were having more conversations. Like we were talking through it. Like, how does this feel? Like, you know, what came to mind? What's happening here? Yeah. And I tell you, the more like, man, I forgot the name of the book, but like
31 days
to great
sex.
To great sex. Check it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we realized that the more conversations we had, the more intimate that we became.
Correct.
Which is why like our hearts were connected, like emotionally, spiritually. We grew so much more because we were having more conversations.
You grew in knowledge and understanding, just like in your faith walk.
Yes.
As you grow in knowledge and understanding, you should see that reflected in your behavior.
Yeah. You know what? It's wild because we talked about that in the last time we talked about sex on this channel.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about the more you talk about it.
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
Is the more you're set free, the more it's revealing, because everybody goes into a relationship with their mindset on what they see sex to be.
Yeah, based on what TV shows.
And I couldn't pray this away. Like that's where you got to be able to separate trauma from the truth. I know God's truth. I know his standard, but my trauma now started to distort his truth.
Wow.
And to your point, you need to be able to have those conversations. They're tough, but this is why who you marry matters.
Yeah, and so this is why, like, even though like my libido was high, I had to realize this is not just about me.
No, it's not.
It's not just about meeting my needs or just fulfilling my needs and, you know, how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
But no, we're in this together.
Yeah.
Like, this is why I say this all the time. Marriage requires work.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a full-time job. You don't clock out.
And he handled me with so much care.
I hear that in how he's talking about it right now.
There was no judgment.
No.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, oh gosh, man. Okay, this is going to require. No, my husband provided so much safety for me.
Yeah.
Things that was coming out of my mouth I've never vocalized.
Right.
That's now coming out of my mouth. And this is not the first year, second year, third year. We ended up getting pregnant with London, our third year of marriage, still working through this.
Wow.
Because now it compounds.
Yeah.
Because now having a kid, my body's changing. All of these things now just kind of gets enmeshed.
Yeah.
And it's taken a new form. It's enigmatic. So you need to be able to take that time to have the conversation, to vocalize, to articulate. Because you can't set expectations when you haven't communicated.
Yeah. And these are the layers of marriage and how you build a godly relationship. I think it's so important I love that you said, you know, I had all these things that I never talked about. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we get married and it's supposed to be one thing. Yep. I think so many women, more than we even know, they have to deal with, I was a good girl, so I don't have sex, but now I'm married, so now I can have sex, but then I feel like a bad girl. Correct. And like working through that mindset. Yeah. Like I talked about it in our sex episode of I couldn't find that line. Yeah. Then we ended up in strip clubs. And so then I was like, wait, this doesn't feel holy either.
Bro,
like I couldn't find what does this look like in holiness and purity, but taking care of my husband or satisfying or enjoying the gift that God gave us of sex. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know where I belong.
Yeah, bro, it was, you guys remember, it was all wrong.
It was all wrong.
We thought like now we're free to do anything with our sexuality.
Because we're married. So that gives us the freedom to do all of it.
Let's start watching porn.
License.
Let's start going to strip clubs.
We went through that.
And there was positions you just like, ooh, you felt so dirty. Yeah, and it's like, because porn did that. Because you saw how dirty that person looked. Yeah. So it got distorted. Correct. Like, bro, I don't know. I'm about to ask you guys the question. Sure. But like, we're good now. Yeah. We talked it through. Right. How's sex for you guys?
Oh.
Come on.
Okay, there you go. All right. It's still MA. All right.
Don't let
This is
14 years, guys, and we're doing
we're 14 years soon.
Same thing. We got married the same year, guys. We got
2 months later.
Yes, 2 months. So they got married in March.
I will say this. I no longer have to ask.
No, I'm the initiator. Me.
I no longer
Rebecca
have to
Germain.
Yeah, wow.
The one who sits at Jesus' feet is out here initiated. And trust me, my husband is not in lack in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Glory to God.
Good.
But what
Same. Yes.
And what I realize is that, you know, like sex starts before you enter into the bedroom.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Like I realized, and I had to think through, okay, how can I serve my wife?
Yeah.
How can I come alongside her?
Yeah.
I didn't think about this going in. Like there's dishes that's dirty.
You didn't have the language. You didn't know.
Yeah. I didn't think about, hey, the house is dirty. So, you know, she's going to be thinking about that instead of, you know, thinking about me coming home.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. And so like, it's as we were growing and having more conversations, I'm like, why are you not present? You know, she's like, because I'm thinking about the kids. Yeah, I'm thinking about the dishes. Yeah. And I realized that once I started doing acts of service, like her mind was free.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, that's
to take care of you.
And I was present.
But even the conversation of initiation and what does that look like for me? What does that look like for him? And what does that look like because of the day? Like even just that intricate intersection of sex. What does initiation look like is a whole topic in conversation.
It's all about conversation though, guys. That's what it is. We need to dismantle this mental construct that every time you guys we're going to have sex, it's going to look like what the movie said, that we're going to be ripping our clothes off and it was just all so spontaneous.
And that may happen.
And
then you just
will
roll
happen.
over. And
it
that's
happens
it.
far and few, but you also need to know what season you're in.
Yes.
Because when it's a crazy season, this is where it's important to schedule sex.
Yes.
That doesn't demean it.
No.
It doesn't minimize
Still
it.
feels great.
Matter of fact, we find that we enjoy it more because
it's
from
scheduled.
that day, that
Already prepared.
morning, we are already prepared.
Hey, tonight,
Yes.
forget.
So we're
So
texting,
true.
we're texting, sexting.
What
is it when you-
It's happening.
My husband went
It's
somewhere,
happening.
he's coming back.
He did go somewhere.
It's
He
happening.
did.
So we're flirting
Right.
with each other throughout the day. We're
Yeah.
being intentional.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cook that night. We're just going to order takeout
Yeah.
because it was scheduled. This is us being intentional. And marriage
Intentional.
requires
Yeah,
intentionality.
it's and you said it earlier, bro. It's work. I want to
Yep.
encourage you guys. Like, don't just endure and tolerate your relationships.
No.
No.
Like, show up every single day and
Yep.
make a decision.
Yep.
It's a choice. You can't sit and say, I'm going to tough it through, just going to do it. And then what happens is one day you're going to blow up and you're going to be like, man, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
And that's what's been happening. We've seen it in the generations before us where
Right.
they just endured. My
Yep.
parents,
True.
you guys know we've talked about it. My mom passed away and I didn't talk about this much, but my dad already moved on really quick. Him moving on wasn't the problem, but it was coming to find out that it was like 4 decades of just enduring and tolerating each other. And I see the relationship. I'm just like, I don't want it. I don't want that. Like you're my person. You're my best friend. I'm like, yo, let's talk through this
Right.
so that we can actually celebrate each other
Correct.
and not tolerate each other.
That's right.
And then what
So
happens is
good.
people say, well, what happened? They divorced after 20, 30, 40 years. What happened? Well, because the common denominator, like the kids or the business or the
Sure.
church or
Right.
those type of things moved out.
Yep.
And now they're like,
All the
okay.
transactions.
Then now your eyes open.
Yep.
You have time to spend time with someone. You realize like, oh,
I don't
snap,
even
I
like
hate
them.
you.
Yeah.
I actually don't even like you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, celebrate.
Yeah.
Don't just tolerate.
Yep.
Like show up every single day.
Yep.
Show up for work. And you guys heard me say this before plenty of times, man. Fellas, I'm gonna talk to the guys right now, married men. Like if you don't do your job, someone else gonna do your job.
It's true.
Stop clocking out.
It's
Stop
true.
checking out. Like I know for me, like if I want sex at night, like I know how to fill her tank. Like you said it,
Correct.
right? Serving her. So I know
Yep.
my wife wants to be loved on all throughout the day.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm gonna love on her all
Yep.
throughout the day.
Yep.
It's a choice that we make,
That's
man.
it.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
a choice that we
Yep.
make, man. What time is it, man?
I
Because
don't
it's
know.
also
We've been
lunchtime.
Nah,
We've been going for a
this
while.
is good.
This
Well,
is
can I
good.
speak to the ladies real quick though? I
Go
love
ahead,
that.
talk
to
Hey,
them.
ladies, hey,
Go
what
ahead,
you
look
don't
at that
do,
camera.
another woman will. I think about Samson
True.
and Delilah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Samson needed a place to lay his head.
Oh, Father.
I define that as a place where he can be emotionally vulnerable.
Uh-huh.
He was so comfortable that he then ended up giving her power
It's crazy.
Yeah.
because that's the power that we have
Yeah.
as women when we create that space for
Yeah.
our men.
Yeah.
So women, what a guy desires is a place where they can be emotionally vulnerable.
Boom.
Are you creating that space?
Mm.
When he shares something with you, are you sharing it with other people?
Mm.
When he's wanting to be vulnerable, are you too busy for you to slow down and not recognize and
Yeah.
not discern that what he's saying is not necessarily
Mm.
Yeah.
what's happening? Because
Yeah.
sometimes the words you use, especially as men,
Yeah.
it is just a defense mechanism.
Right.
Mhm.
But it's my ability as it's my job as your wife to be able to discern and sift
Read
through
that.
Yeah.
your words, decode
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is that you're actually saying, and then take action and
Mm.
realize, oh, my husband is not well. I know your words are saying one thing, but in between that, I'm seeing that there's something
That's
else.
crazy, man.
So it's our jobs,
That's crazy.
to create that emotional safe space
Yeah.
for our men.
And
Or
in
even-
that safe
you're going-
space so that you still feel respected.
Correct.
Because
Yes.
that's the hugest thing for men
Correct.
is to feel respected.
Yep.
So if you finally give me a little bit of emotional vulnerability,
Yep.
I better do my darndest that
Absolutely.
I protect you
Yep.
and I still honor you and
That's right.
respect you in that moment
Sure.
because you shared that with me. And then I'm going to be the one to build you back up. Ain't nobody else going to tell you.
That's right.
Right.
Ain't no other
Yep.
hoe going to say that to me.
Okay.
Yep.
All
Like,
right. Matter of
listen,
fact, hey.
nobody else is going to do that. That's my job.
So before we go into some final words, I got this red box. You guys remember that red box from a couple weeks ago?
I was thinking
Oh
the
Lord!
same thing.
While you grab that, I know John said he had. Would you said you had a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh
You were
no!
getting ready to say
The
something.
other thing I was just gonna say is, if I share something with you, that you don't use it back
Against-
at me against me.
Yeah.
Like,
Damn.
I
Like
trust
in the
you
next
enough.
argument.
Don't weaponize
You
it.
like throw it down.
Okay, real
You
quick.
bring it
All
up
right.
10 years later.
What level are you going to make him
John,
do?
you're gonna pick a card.
Oh,
Becky,
gosh.
you're gonna pick a card, and
Ugh.
we're gonna read it to each other. All right.
Ugh.
So here we
Oh
go.
boy.
I'm not comfortable
Guys,
with this.
I have had the craziest like
lash
fiber thing in my eye this whole time. I can't get it out.
And you're doing good because by now my eyes would have been red.
Ugh.
Okay.
Are we all doing one? Okay.
So we'll go. Check 1 2 check. End the test. Check.
Such a Haitian.
Check. That's how the Haitian be doing it. All right.
Such a Caribbean.
Okay, I'm gonna grab a card.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read one to you.
Okay.
This is perception category. Okay, between the two of us, who's most likely to make us late for an event?
That's not a fair question.
I love this. This is easy.
It's easy. It's me.
Okay.
All day.
Boy.
'Cause listen, I just can't find what I want to wear, and that's annoying.
But hey, you know what? I'm gonna say this right now, quick, babe. I love you because you've been so respectful when it comes to time management.
Thank you.
Because my dad growing up, he would sit at the door, banging on the door. Everybody made him late, and he would leave you.
Can I talk about it?
And
you told me that story from the moment we dated, and
Yeah.
I've never made you leave me.
Yeah.
I've never had to leave Danley once. So actually, you're most likely to make us late, but I can say 14 years of our marriage, you haven't made us late.
Thank you very much.
And we don't, punctuality is key for me.
Yeah, that's
I've
true.
never made anybody late. I give you full ETAs.
Since being married to you, I hate the feeling of being late. But before we were married, I was the always 5-minute late person.
Yeah. So that's really cool to be able to say that. Actually, neither one of us.
You.
Oh, man.
Let's go, baby. Hit me.
Okay. In your opinion, this is so embarrassing. Okay. In your opinion, how am I holding myself back the most?
Yes.
I don't like these questions.
Wild.
I don't like these questions.
What category is this?
This one was
reflection.
Reflection
In my
category.
opinion. Oh wait, you've asked me this one before.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember your answer.
Okay, you're overthinker.
Oh, I do remember that.
I said it in. Oh
You're right.
man, I'm so glad that my answer was the same. Because you imagine my answer would be different. Like people who are listening say, "That's complete."
I'd be like commenting, be like, "That's not what he said last
he just
time."
wants to keep hitting her with all these darts.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
no, it's the same one.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
You're
We did talk about
overthinker.
this, and I am.
Like I think like when it's down to the buzzer, bottom of the 9, all these situations, like you overthink where you missed the shot. You overthink where you overshoot. You overthink where you look back and say like, man, I should have moved quicker.
Yep. And what I said was, overthinkers don't know we're overthinking.
Yeah, you don't know in the moment. Like, you know what? I'm overthinking.
We're over contemplating.
You think you're actually bringing value to the situation.
But actually all it does is cause us to spin circles.
And you hold yourself back and you look at all these risks, you look at the cost, and it paralyzes you. I think that's what holds you back in the last 14 years of being married to you was you overthinking. There's sometimes you come to me with some opportunities and like, just do it.
Yep.
But what about the kids? What about your schedule? And this, I was like, we ain't got to think about all that right now.
So true.
Text that person back and say yes, do it.
Yeah. It's so true.
So,
okay.
There we go.
All right. It's good to see a reflection. Like this is our marriage. So
it is.
We're the same people. We talk about this all the time.
We talk about
you
all
guys
the time.
are the same.
Me and
I'm like,
John
what
are
happened
the
to this
same.
opportunity? Yeah, I never text them. Wait, what? Why?
Yeah, he was overthinking.
Wait, you were over. Yeah, but I thought because no, just text them
map
back.
it out.
He's like, he just wants to analyze, and he does like these pie charts, and he's like risk analysis, bruh.
Yeah,
you gonna figure it out in real time. Tell them yes.
Tell them yes. Okay,
All
Rebecca.
right.
All right, here we go. Oh Lord, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes,
We did not ask their permission before we threw these cards at them.
No,
What
they did
was
not.
the hardest thing for you to understand about me early on?
Ooh.
Oh. The hardest thing, I will say, well, one.
What, we don't need
Yeah, the
not a
hardest.
list.
The
One
hardest
thing, John.
thing, no S.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was after we got married, it made me think, we never had any arguments.
No.
Before you got married, you didn't have any
never
arguments?
had any arguments. So I thought we were smooth sailing.
Sure. That would make you think that.
This was going to be great
Until that time.
until we were driving to church. And I think
You could tell
I think it was a
what is that you
buildup
didn't
or
know
something
about
like
me.
that.
Yeah.
capital P, passionate.
Or the real word,
Yeah.
a temper. He didn't know that I had a temper.
Yeah.
I never knew. So it caught me off guard.
After
now
marriage.
you're married.
After
So
marriage.
now you're going to see who you really
She did
are
a
with.
really good job in just holding it back.
Controlling it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
A really good
Crazy.
job.
Yep.
So it
That
caught
was
me
the
off
day.
guard.
Yeah.
as we're going to church.
Yeah.
Hey, it's that church girl facade thing that we were conditioned to do.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And for me, it's childhood trauma because I didn't want to make Pop upset.
Yeah, so you had to perform well.
I had to perform well. So even when I would feel explosive or I needed attention of some sort, there was no place for me to get it. So a lot of it just got pushed down and, dismissed, but it was still growing. It became very eruptive.
That's wild.
So I even started to tell myself that I don't have an anger issue, and I don't have a temper. I'm just mad because nobody heard me out. But
I've never seen her mad.
No.
So that was the hardest thing to like understand, like what's going on.
Yeah,
Like,
because we're married. I'm like, this is not the person I married.
Yeah, like
Dang.
send her
And
back.
I was scared that if he
send
saw
me
my
the one that I
temper-
married.
Yeah, and I was so afraid that if my temper got exposed to him before we got married, that he wouldn't want me.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Because childhood trauma.
Yeah, it's
So
huge.
That's okay.
That's
okay.
crazy.
All right.
Yes.
All right, John.
That's a good
All
one.
right.
Oh boy.
So what's one small thing I do that tells you everything you need to know about me?
That's tough.
So what's one small thing?
That I do that tells you everything you need to know about me?
Ooh.
So you are naturally an affectionate person. You're an affectionate person. But when you get extremely affectionate, it says a lot. You're telling me something. You haven't found the words yet, but you're telling me something. And it's a doorway. It's a doorway that you're ready to be vulnerable. Emotionally vulnerable.
I'm about to open up.
You're gonna open.
About to open up the floodgates.
She rolled her eyes.
Because I already know. I know.
You.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a big thing because you come from a family where you guys are emotionally detached.
Yes.
So
Never said I love you.
They never said I love you. I mean, we didn't say that either.
Yeah.
But we weren't emotionally detached. We had other issues. But for someone that grew up in a home where emotions wasn't really catered to, and to be so affectionate, that tells me a lot.
Yeah.
It tells me a lot.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool,
Well,
guys.
thank you guys for being a part of this.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that people got to see my sis.
Yeah.
Because I tell people all the time, I'm like, no, y'all, if y'all know my sister, which we just say sister.
Yes.
So we are
That's
just
my
not,
sister.
but that's just sis.
That's it.
You're my sister too.
Good. Ew. I was like, get out of here.
We're not doing that.
We
Sister
rebuke
wives.
that.
Sister
We
wives.
don't do that here.
We're part of another kingdom.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever. In
I
that
don't
kingdom,
like
she
you.
could be your sister.
Right.
And when we
But
get in
here,
eternity.
Yeah.
I'm not just sister.
and then in the Haitian
this world.
community, in the Haitian community, you're Sister Pierre.
That's right. I am.
Yes, you are.
C'est
Yeah.
Pierre.
And I'm
or
Sister
Sister
Jonathan.
Maestro.
Oh, yes.
I'm Sister Jonathan.
That's right.
So annoying. So annoying.
But honestly, I always talk about you and how much I love our friendship and how much like just sitting around you is so like fulfilling. And I told y'all before we started, I was like, man, people wouldn't believe us if I said like, this is how we really have conversations. This is really what we talk about. And this is genuinely the relationships that God has blessed us with of like how it is with you guys and us. Our families can live together for 2 weeks and we love every minute of it. We never were like at each other's throat. Like we just, our 4 kids get along. Like God has really, really blessed us with the friendship of our family.
No, it's cool. It's cool to have you guys here. For those of you guys that don't know that, they pastor a really cool church, a growing church in North Miami, and God has really used them to really take it to a whole nother level. So Vive City Chapel. So if you guys are in South Florida, if you guys are in North Miami area and you're looking for a church to be a part of, I'm not talking about church hopping, not talking about because you don't like your pastor, you still need to work through that. I'm not talking about because you can't stand some people work through that. But I'm telling you, if you're genuinely looking for a place and you want to grow deeper, you want to dig some really deep roots. We talked about that in our conversation before here about remaining in God and that you will really produce fruit. So they're a really solid community to be part of. So I want to thank you guys again. Just some final thoughts. I want to encourage you guys. You guys already know it, man. Like hang out with the people you want to become. So if there's any toxic relationships that you're part of, get rid of it, man. You don't owe nobody nothing, man. You don't owe anybody nothing. We want to encourage you guys to keep on digging, right? All those negative things that are deep down inside of you, the temperaments, man, you don't have to live with it. You don't have to tolerate it, man. Find someone to talk to, find someone to walk with. And I'm telling you, man, life gets so much better when relationships do. The ones that are up, the ones that are down, and the ones that are all around, man. Life was not meant for us to do it by ourselves. You look at the Bible, you look at everything, pairs, groups, teams, leaders. And so even in your workplaces, in your homes, you get your lives better, your relationship's better, everything grows, man. So continue to dig.
Good.
We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Final
thank
encouragement.
You for having us.
No,
I'm ready
yeah.
to go eat.
This was good.
Let's get some food.
Let's go
Yeah,
eat.
my
hands
job.
are
Love
slow,
y'all.
too.
Let's dig.
Bye.
All right, guys.